Call meeting order. Roll call, Carrie, please.
Legislator Burns has been excused. Chartrand.
Here.
King.
Here.
Hauser.
Here.
Lishos.
Here.
Lehman.
Here.
Mowerhand. Here. Legislator Mosher has been excused. Osborne.
Here.
Dahlhoff.
Here. Please stand for the invocation and the pledge. When you wake up each morning, count your blessings. From the start, for every day is beautiful. When you live with a grateful heart, cherish today. And the Moser family would appreciate it if everyone would keep them in their thoughts. They've experienced a tragic accident, and they're working through that now. So, thank you. Please turn for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The February 5th minutes stand approved, unless someone has a correction they'd like to offer, otherwise they stand approved. Report of the Finance and Rules Committee per Rule 6, Carrie.
The Finance and Rules Committee has met, and I recommend to waive the rules to act upon late resolutions this evening.
The motion, John, second, Dick. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Privilege of the floor. Anyone here like privilege of the floor?
For now.
Yeah, we'll talk loud.
Just have to shut it off. That button put in
Thank
there.
you.
Just gonna have to shut it.
We appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to presentations and communications and notices, Carrie.
The Pine Grove Community Church Preservation Society sent a thank you note for the legislators and staff donations in memoriam of legislator Mowerhand's sister, Pamela Finer. The Adirondack Park Local Government Review Board forwarded their resolution in support of snowmobiling and increasing snowmobile trail miles in the Adirondacks. The Review Board and the Town of Arietta and Hamilton County voted resolutions to urge various agencies and the state of New York to work together to devise a plan to provide cell coverage for all Adirondack residents and visitors. The board acknowledges receipt of resolutions enacted by the Niagara County Legislature opposing Governor Cuomo's red flag gun seizure proposal and calling upon the governor and state legislature to repeal the New York State Reproductive Health Act. From the Orleans County Legislature, urging the state to fund all costs associated with implemented voting reforms. A resolution in opposition to the proposed executive state budget, shifting the cost of aid and incentives to municipalities onto counties, and opposing assembly bill that would prohibit firearms as prizes in any games of chance. And from the Orange County Legislature, a resolution urging state legislation to classify as controlled substances certain fentanyls that are responsible for opioid overdose deaths.
Thank you, Carrie. Reports of standing committees.
Legislators have received copies of the February Treasurer's Report and Highway and Solid Waste Department audit reports.
Reports of standing committees, Tom, would you,
As the Finance and Rule Committee, I've got a motion to authorize payment of $5,000 to Berner Carr and Associates PC for a cost analysis of specific potential sites for construction of a new county building.
moved by Tom, second by Jerry, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's my report, Chairman.
Thank you, Tom. Jerry, General Services Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got, quite a few motions. I'll start, with a motion to award bids for sand, gravel, crushed stone, concrete base on project location acceptance with the tribulation of all bids, prepared by the highway superintendent and placed on file with the clerk of the board for the period of 4/1/19 through 3/31/2020. So
Moved
I'd
by
like to make that a motion.
Moved by Jerry, second by Greg, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
A motion to award low bid of crushing stone to Linedecker Excavating in the amount of $4 per ton for the period of 4/1/19 through 3/31/2020.
Moved by Jerry, second by Tom, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Motion to authorize Highway Superintendent Warren Shaw to fill 10 full-time temporary seasonal workers, either grade 4 or 15 pursuant to civil service rules and regulations. And he'd like to start that April 1st, 2019.
Moved by Jerry, second by John, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Okay, motion to authorize Warren Shaw to order a Mack granite truck with Viking plow pursuant low bid of $242,074.29 for a 5-year annual payment of $52,439.74 with Key Bank.
Can we get to 2001 too?
I'm sorry, what?
Can we get to $2,000 too? Moved by Jerry.
Oh, no, yeah, well, those numbers are bigger than I can recognize.
Moved by Jerry, second by Andrea, discussion?
This is right within that plan that they've had.
Yeah, the capital plan of replacing them, or getting them and getting the fleet going again.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Motion to authorize Sheriff Carbonelli to refill 1 vacant part-time correction officer position effective immediately.
Moved by Jerry, second by Tom, discussion?
This is one, it's just a refill, right?
Yeah.
Just,
It's either one left or whatever. and-
got fired, whatever.
So it's in the budget then?
Go ahead,
All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Motion to authorize Recreation, Forestry, Parks Director Jackie Mahoney to fill temporary seasonal workers, 1 crew leader, 2 crew workers, trails, 1 laborer, careers here, additional pay. Is that where some money's coming from or something?
Yes, we're gonna family rate, but career share are gonna just gonna cover minimum wage.
Okay, so I got that part right, and 1 laborer reforestation effective 3/1/19 or thereafter as she deems appropriate.
Moved by Jerry, second by Randy, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
One motion to authorize Planning Director Frank Pace to advertise a request for proposals, RFP, for the central water supply.
Moved by Jerry, second by Greg, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
And I just had one other thing I wanna throw out to fellow legislators. we had a informational meeting recently. You're gonna be getting some information tonight on what the questions were, your thoughts and stuff. And the other thing is, I would like for us to think about the more opposition to New York State allowing this marijuana stuff. I mean, my concern is we got problems here already in Lewis County. And then you turn around and start that, they're just gonna grow. And I really, this is my opinion, to take money over the population of Lewis County is not right. And it's gonna cause more problems than we have now, so. I'd just like my fellow legislators to think about it, and maybe we can do something to oppose it. That's all, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Any questions for Jerry? If not, Greg, Health and Human Services Committee.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had some motions. First one is a motion to authorize Social Service Commissioner Jennifer Jones to extend one senior social service program examiner due to extension of heat through June 30th, 2019.
Moved by Greg, second by John. Discussion.
Larry, can I speak up? We can't hear a thing you guys are saying. Can you talk louder? We can't hear a thing.
Okay.
Don't worry about that, just talk louder.
Okay. And my next motion.
Wait,
Oh, we have a vote.
okay. Did we get through moved by, you seconded,
Yep.
John?
Yep.
Okay,
Discussion.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Okay, next motion is to authorize Social Service Commissioner Jennifer Jones to refill one caseworker position effective immediately due to somebody not making the probationary period.
Moved by Greg, second by Jerry. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
That's all I have for you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Greg? Thank you, Greg. Dick is the board's rep for the hospital board manager.
Okay, I've got a few things, but first off, I wasn't here because I was holding ice over my hand and great big bandage last week. The meeting was down here. Did the legislators sit in this meeting or did they do something else?
Oh, we did something else.
Okay, good, then I'll give you some highlights. Employee of the month was Charity Turk. She's an RN, and if you see Charity around, congratulate her on her recognition as the Employee of the Month. Okay. Some of the highlights in different areas. Our overall gross patient revenue was lower. Could be looked at positively that people are healthier, like our mission statement says. But that attributed to a loss of $163,128 for January, compared to a budgeted loss of $40,573. But we're still in good shape for the total year. Employee benefits were under budget by 4.1%. That was due to the county not implementing the increase in health insurance premiums, so we've got that to where it's gotta be, and it's working to help keep costs down, so thank you for that. Delphi is now providing anesthesia coverage on a regular basis, and I can personally attest they're doing a really good job. And I offer all of you to keep the hospital in your thoughts, and if you want to support it, jump right up there. I seem to be doing my full share of it. Observations were lower than budget, but they were the 4th highest of all time. OR surgeries, 2nd highest in almost 5 years. Dr. Quicklist had her first month where she had 424 visits. Very positive. That concludes my report, barring questions.
Questions for Dick? Thank you, Dick.
Oh, whoop, I'm sorry, got one more. Late breaking news today. Is it okay to announce that one?
No.
I'll let Jerry do it later.
You already said.
Thank you.
There's a process.
Yeah, that's why I look to you.
I guess
All
you're
set.
done, Dick.
All done. It's good news, you'll be happy when Jerry tells
Okay.
you.
Okay, county manager report, Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're gonna use this time tonight to talk about,
Do you want the light down, Karen?
Yeah. Ways in which we could potentially finance some capital improvement projects in the county. So first of all, I want to apologize to John, who asked a question at our meeting on Wednesday, and I don't know where my head was, but that was not even close to the right answer. So here is the right answer, right on page 1.
But you need to write on to read it right now.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, that's right.
But you need to write on to read it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. We're going to cover a few things. Basics on how we could get from where we are to actually spending some money on capital projects in the next couple years here. We're going to talk about how much do we have now, what do we owe, what do we expect to receive through windmill money and other revenue, the DSS factor, which I'll explain, projected bond payments, and projected lease savings. So it seems like a lot, but it'll go fast. First, how much do we have? Difficult time to be asking that question because we are reconciling all of our books. So we're right at the edge of knowing exactly precisely how the year is going to end, but we won't know for another week. So this is our best estimate, and I think an estimate is fine given we're looking at the very big picture here. General fund, by the time we shake out the end of the year, we'll probably end up with around $9 million in the general fund. Capital fund. We split the capital fund. This is a Lewis County type of thing where we have all these little buckets where we put money away. That's fine, but you got to be able to look at it as a whole because we look at this DSS building. This was started maybe 7 years ago. The county legislature said we're going to need a new DSS building. They started putting money in there, and then we didn't put any more money. So in my mind, you got to start thinking of these things as one big fund, and then we start prioritizing from there. But you can see we do have all these funds set up. Total for your capital fund, there's about $3 million available that we can use for capital projects, cash in hand right now. County road fund, not going to be used for capital projects. That's for the operation of our road. That funds what we do every year. We're not really going to touch that for these for the facilities that we're talking about. County machinery fund, we'll talk about that more tonight. You're going to make a resolution on that. Our enterprise funds, again, enterprise funds would not be used for our facilities, right? They're supposed to sustain themselves. So the solid waste fund, the only place you would use solid waste fund money is for facility improvements at the solid waste. Okay, so we can't include that in part of our total. Lewis County General Hospital, same thing. They're doing wonderful financially, but we can't use that money over here. That's for their facilities and for their operations. And the county health insurance fund, same thing. We can't touch that, only for health insurance on employees. Other available money. Excess sales tax. The Finance and Rules Committee is going to be tackling this next in a couple weeks. What do we do with this extra money for this year? We've got about $1.5 million this year that was extra from what we had in the budget. Appropriated to capital, you'll recall in the budget, we set aside $300,000. That's what we did the tax increase for. So we've got that to count on. And appropriated to capital from windmill money every year. We appropriate around $840,000 to the capital fund. So those are extra. So how much do we have in a more direct sense? Total available fund balance, about $12 million. If you take everything, all together that we can spend. Some of it's restricted, some of it's just for hospital. That's not in there. This is the stuff that we can spend. Now you don't want to spend it all, but that's what we have. Other available money, about $2.6 million. That's the excess sales tax and other things that we talked about. Total available, $14.6 million. Now you want to hold some of that because you got to keep a rainy day fund. But on the other hand, the situation we're in with some of our buildings could be considered a bit of a rainy day. So we might want to spend a little bit of that. How much do we owe? So we have one big piece of debt, which is the 2007 courthouse project. That will be done in 2037, okay? And there's a chart that's in the packet that I gave you that shows those debt payments going out over the next 15 years, 17 years. Annually, we pay about $575,000. That goes down over time. We front-loaded the payments on that project, and we took out an original loan of $9.8 million. We also have the hospital transfer that we did last year. That is not paid through cash out the door. That will be paid through revenue that the hospital will not pay us. So that doesn't necessarily hit our bottom line in the same sense, but it is something that we have to be aware of. How much do we expect to receive? Okay, this looks like a lot, but we'll go through it one at a time. John asked the question about windmill revenue. Great question. Right where our head should be at. We know that Maple Ridge is here, right? Project likelihood, 100%, it's here. This is our schedule of payments. As you can remember, we negotiated that, so this year's the last year of the original pilot. Next year starts the new pilot. In the new pilot, we did a 3-year freeze, 20, 21, 22, 19, 20, 21. And then in 2022, we jumped to the 2018 rates. When you jump to the 2018 rates, we go up $320,000. So if you look all the way, well, just see that for now. Obviously, over time, the windmill's reduced. The pilot ends in 2032. From there, I just plugged in, get my guess. We don't know what happens after the pilot. We know we won't receive nothing. So I put in $500,000 for every year after that. Denmark project is up. They're spinning, as Greg noted last week. That pilot begins in 2020. To answer your question, Greg, why doesn't it start now? I don't know, but the pilot was negotiated in 2015. So that's been locked. The finances have been locked on that for 4 years now. And you can see the payment schedule on that. The pilot ends 2039.
But if they're producing electricity and making money, where's the money going?
Well, they are free to go ahead, Eric.
I think a simple answer, it's based on taxable status date. The system went into operation last November, December, and then it's the taxable status date after that, which was March 1st, a couple days ago, and then the pilot takes effect after that. So it's the first payment after their taxable status date. If that makes sense.
So, but the first payment's still not till 2020?
It will be next January, right? So the first payment is the year after it hits taxable status.
Roaring Brook. So these are 100 project likelihood. We know that these have happened. The rest are guesses. We don't know if Roaring Brook number 3 or Deer River are going to happen. This was Eric and his team, based on what they know. We tried to assign percentages. Take it for what it's worth. I mean, we really don't know whether these projects are going to be built or not. But the most likely appears to be Roaring Brook. The pilot, in terms of that, have already been negotiated. They were negotiated in 2017, actually, so we do know what the payment schedule will look like for that. For the number 3 project, there's a 60% chance that gets built. We have not started any negotiations, but based on what we know and our pilot structure we've set up, we can guess that we would receive something along these lines. Same thing with Deer River. We have a pretty good idea of what we'll receive because we've been negotiating with them up at Barnes Corners Town Hall there since I've gotten here. It's been 2 years of ongoing negotiations, but they still have some things to work out with Jefferson County. They've got that transmission line that goes through Jefferson County, so they've got other issues that they're working on. If you take the courthouse debt, so anyways, total value you can see of everything. If every project happens, that's a lot of money coming our way. It's a lot of money coming our way, if it all happens. It's a big. Courthouse debt service, if you take basically just the Maple Ridge money, apply that to the courthouse debt, which is what we've been doing, okay? We spend about, like I said before, $575,000 a year on the courthouse debt. We also use $460,000 currently of Maple Ridge money just to balance the budget. So you have to subtract that from your total. So basically what we're doing here is we're taking total of all 4 lines, subtracting the debt payment, subtracting operating costs, and this is what you have left, which is remaining for capital projects. So if all projects are built and we pay off our debt and we continue to use this money for operating revenue, we don't increase that, which we shouldn't have to, it's held steady. This is what you have left for a bond payment, which is a very decent amount. That would easily cover a bond payment for us. However, if you just take the projects that are in the ground and we know, then it's not quite as glamorous. Does that make sense? The DSS factor, we have to talk about this. Capital improvements for the Department of Social Services are reimbursed 75% by the state of New York, okay? In a building, which the building that we designed from 2012, 50% of that building space is occupied in one way or another, whether it's shared hallway, stairwell, elevator, by the Department of Social Services. So, if you take 75% of 50%, you come up with 37.5%. So the state would reimburse 37.5% of our capital expenses and our interest for this project. So for a $15 million building, the state would finance $5.6 million. We would be left with $9.3 million. Of course, that's if you paid cash all up front. We would take out a bond, that stretches out the term, you're paying a little bit more. We'll get into that then. We'll get into it now. Projected bond payment. I used $15 million. All the estimates that we have were coming in around 12, 13, right? I put in 15 to be conservative so that we know right up front, worst case scenario, 15 million, what we're looking at. Assuming a fixed interest rate of 3% and assuming we put zero money down, this is what we'd be looking at. Total bond payment for a 20-year bond would be $978,000 a year. 30-year bond would be $742,000. But if you account for the DSS picking up their share, 37.5%, our share becomes, for a 20-year bond, $611,000. For a 30-year bond, $464,000. In your packet is a bond schedule. The third page or second page is a bond schedule, which shows you every year what we would pay and the total cost at the end. Obviously, just like a mortgage, the more you stretch out your payments and your debt, the more expensive it is. So there are some savings to do 20 years rather than 30. Questions about anything so far? Okay. One other factor that we have to consider is projected lease savings. If we had a building that was our own, we wouldn't be paying other people to house our departments. Since we pulled away OFA, I had to take them off the list because we're no longer paying rent for them, or we won't be paying rent for them soon. Take DMV, $1,900 a month, Board of Elections, $5,400 a month, Weights and Measures, $115 a month. That's $89,000 a year. In your packet, I created a 20-year schedule, basically escalating 2% a year, which is pretty standard in our lease rates. We go up 2 to 3% a year rate of inflation. Over the course of 20 years of renting, that's $2.5 million. So when you're thinking about bond payments, think about, if you did a 20-year bond, $611,000 minus 89, because that's money that we could spend on a bond that we wouldn't be paying for rent. So that's something to keep in mind. Whoops. Go ahead, Dave. Do you have a question? Discussion, questions? Yeah.
What about solar? I didn't see that listed in
Solar savings?
there.
Yeah, we didn't consider that as
The
part
solar
of the,
really just reduces our
outdoor
utility
expense.
bills.
Well, we never, correct me if I'm wrong, at least last year, we never reduced the utility bill. We left it where it originally was. And that was supposed to be surplus coming in. Did we change it, or when did we change it?
So, for this year's budget, because the solar field just came online last July, so there wasn't much in last year's budget because our arrangement with the company was delayed, right?
Yeah.
So this year's budget, we did include some savings, but it was very minimal. I think we only included like $30,000 of savings when or 70,000. I think what we did was, I think what we did was 50, even though the projection was over 100. So yes, that's money that we would have, but I didn't put it in this.
Okay, but it could show up at the end of the year if we don't use it for something else.
Right, correct. So what we did is we budgeted conservatively on solar for 2019 because we weren't sure what it was gonna come out to be. If it comes out to be the 110 or whatever thousand it was supposed to be every year, that's additional money that we will not need for operations that we could use for yes. But we don't know until we get through 1 year to see.
I understand, I was
Yeah.
just asking a question.
Yep, yep.
Thank you.
No, that's a good question. Yeah.
In these assumptions, is the DSS share gonna be a constant? Do we know that?
Good question. In the assumptions, yes. In reality, I couldn't tell you what the state's gonna make DSS do in year 15 of a 20-year bond, right? They could make us add a whole nother department, or they could take away a department depending on the political, winds. We don't know. So you're right. That's a great question. And there's a lot in here. If you go back to this slide here, it's so hard to really project out with any certainty what we're going to look like 15 years from now. So if you take out a 20, 30-year bond, it's hard to have a definitive plan today to know which cent in 2038 from which windmill project is going to go to pay that bond. I think that's a difficult.
Well, you should, actually, I think when you ran these numbers, Ryan, I don't understand why you even bother to put the ones in that are not actually have a pilot agreement. I mean, we know we're gonna get X amount of dollars from Maple Ridge, and we know we're gonna get it from Denmark. So 100% already
Right.
taken care of. The other three are just hopeful. They have not built, they are not up, there's no roads being built at this point. So until you saw some actual, movement, like roads being put into to where these towers are gonna be, I probably wouldn't have put those projections in here. And then you would have the worst case scenario up there as how much money we have from wind towers. That way you don't have that falsehood coming across that bottom line. Because that's remaining for capital projects. You could be off in year 2025. You could be off $700,000.
I agree. But the question was asked, what do we have coming in for windmill?
But you don't have that coming in.
We're trying to project the best we can. In Excel, you could delete. In fact, I already did that. Exactly what you're saying.
Delete those.
I deleted these 3 columns, and obviously this looks a lot worse.
Well, yeah, of course, that's reality though. That's what we need to see up front, I mean, you putting projections up there that we don't have that money coming in, I mean, we are, like I said, 2019, we should have had money from Denmark with their turn. That was an error somewhere.
Well, the question was asked, what do we have for windmills? This is the best way we can answer it with percentages of likelihood. Yeah, is it a 0 or a 1? Yes, 1 they're built, 0 they're not. But we're trying to do our best to give you some deep background. But I can easily get you a spreadsheet where these 3 are deleted, and obviously it looks different.
Well, I would like that spreadsheet, because that way you have something to work with, and that would be your worst case scenario also.
Right. This is
other
the best
would be,
case scenario.
Yeah, this is the best case. That way, then you'd be sitting fairly well.
Well, the worst case scenario is if this slide doesn't exist, you gotta come up with $600,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right. So we already raised taxes last year to get $300,000. So if we carry that through, $300,000 through, that helps offset some of the cost. Depending on which of these projects get built, you're right. The rest, the more burden falls on the taxpayers, depending on the whether these projects come through or not.
Who picked the percentage of 70, 60, 30?
Eric and I just talking.
What was that based on?
Roaring Brook has received their NYSERDA credits,
Okay.
so that's pretty likely.
Okay.
am I right on that? And they've already negotiated their pilot terms, so that's the most likely. Deer River has not received credit and has not been recognized by the state and has not been able to resolve tax issues with Jefferson County. So that's why they got least likely.
That sounds logical, yeah.
Anything else to add on that, Eric?
No, there's definitely just potential likelihood of getting to construction.
I had one question. I knew of $300,000 we had taken out of what we agreed on originally way back when, that it was to be used for infrastructure to run the county. Where's that other 160 show up to make the 460?
So the bond payment over time has gone down. As the payment has gone down, we have not in the budget adjusted the appropriated amount. So if it was at 600,000 before and now it's at 578, we still appropriated 600,000 and the rest got folded into operating. So it's not an intentional thing, it just has happened over time. That's what the way Patty explained it to me.
Okay, okay.
So it's just, that's where we're at now in reality, is that we're using about 460,000 to balance the books every year.
So plus what we did, is that still the right figure, like for at the end of the year, the fund balance on, we had $800,000 or $900,000 that we run every year. That 460 plus another 500.
Right.
Okay.
That's about where we're at now, Jerry. Is we'll put away almost $800,000 into the capital fund.
Yeah.
This year.
I got one more question. With you showing $1.8 million over there,
Yep.
and I'm just rounding off, you're also, that is the courthouse coming out of that full amount. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So actually, if you look at 2021 when we dip, see we go 1.6 and then 1.0 and then 1.4. If you follow that all the way across, that's our closest year where we're shaving it the closest, right? Because we have less remaining after you take the bond payment out. So we did the 3-year hold in the new negotiation for splitting up the payments. We held 3 years at the 2005 rate and then jumped to the 2018. So that's your holdover year and then we jump. So that's when it's going to be tough. That year's going to be the tough one for the school. So opposite. Okay, anything else based on this that you now feel that we would need? Greg has said that he would like to see, the spreadsheet without these numbers, which we can do easily. Anything else based on this that you would like to see that we can produce for the committee meeting in a couple weeks, so that I can email you guys? Anything else that can keep the ball moving when it comes to this project and finances related to it?
Are there any shorter term bonds, like 20? Is there 10, is there 15, is there 25? Yeah,
I believe there would be 10, but I think that would really be,
tight.
tough, yes.
So you can do a bond anticipation note. So if we, for example, knew that this new building was going to open up, say we bid it out in August, we know it's going to open up in 2021, we have 5 years of bond anticipation note to pay down as much as we can before we actually loan the money. So if we took out a 5-year ban and then had 2 great years of excess sales tax and we put it towards the ban, when we actually took out the bond in 2021 when the building opened, or 2023, however you want to do it, then you would have less to pay down over the years. So, but don't forget, with DSS contributing, there's not a lot of incentive to put a whole lot of money down. They're going to cover the cost of borrowing, so let them cover it.
And the thing is, whether we qualify for to give, there was accelerated payment.
Right.
So essentially, you're gonna get everything you're gonna get in 16 years. And if we can afford it, why carry it out to 30?
Yes.
Plus,
So-
interest is what, $2 million for another 10 years?
Yes, if you look at your schedule there, and Jerry points out something that is true. The state will want to make their payments upfront, obviously, because they wanna pay, you know, what they can upfront and not spread it out over time, more interest for them, right? So, in your schedule there, those numbers aren't 100% accurate because we know that the state is gonna wanna front load. So the first 10 years will probably be a higher percentage of state, lower percentage of county, then the last 10 years will be higher percentage county, lower percentage state. But we can't do those calculations without actually going to the state and knowing exactly what they want. So it's not gonna be every single payment will be $611,000, it's gonna be split differently. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ryan. County Treasurer Report, Patty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the balances for the month. Special legislative contingency is $99,942. Regular contingency is $200,000. Capital data processing is $73,968.81. Capital equipment, highway share is $162,572.32. County share is $478,867.96. Sales tax, I have the 2018 balance, which came in at $12,452,580.70, which came in at the balance of $1,477,580.70 over budget. Internal service fund, we have the fund balance of $4,664,094.96. And that is all I have to report unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Patty? Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, moving to report of the Finance and Rules Committee, approved Rule 7, Carrie.
The Finance and Rules Committee reports they have examined the claims presented for payment in the total amount of $977,828.96 and recommend they be audited and allowed for the amounts claimed.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second by Jerry. Any discussion? All in favor?
Roll call.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next one.
Okay.
Roll call.
That's just the report. Sorry. Was there any objection?
No, we're good.
No.
The first resolution is the audit of claims in the amount of $977,828.96.
Moved by Greg, second by Jerry. Discussion. Roll call, Jerry, please.
Chartran?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Colzer?
Yes.
LaChaux?
Yes.
Lehman?
Yes.
Mallahan?
Yes.
Osborne?
Yes.
Dahlhoff?
Yes.
In opposition to three proposed bills pending in the New York State Legislature with respect to firearm legislation.
Moved by Jerry, second by Randy. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Opposing proposed and amended 2020 executive state budget impacting aid and incentives to municipalities.
Moved by Greg, second by Tom, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Authorizing intermunicipal agreements between the county and village of Constableville, village of Lions Falls, and the town of Program to administer and enforce local land use and zoning regulations.
Moved by John, second by Tom, discussion.
I got one question. One of the concerns we had talked about before was all the different towns and villages having all different regulations. And did we ever come up, or we just take it on everything?
These are the ones that follow the state building codes,
Okay.
land use
okay.
and zoning regs,
Okay.
and these are the zoning regs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Authorizing the county to enter into an agreement with All Tech Integrations to monitor fire alarm system in the JCC building.
Moved by Jerry, second by Andrea, discussion.
My page says this is effective the 1st of February, but we're just approving it tonight. Is there a conflict there?
No, we just, it basically, I
It's
don't
just timing.
even know if it's installed yet, but it starts as of the beginning of the month.
Okay,
I
thanks.
think you have New York State Route 137, I think it's probably New York State Route 37. 137.
I don't know what they're saying.
No, over the 137. Long time.
What do you think it is?
I think it's Route 37. That's
New
the one
York
that goes
State.
out to Mill Street, I think.
So we'll make that
Just
correction
check it, yeah,
in the contract.
yeah. And there could be a 137, I'm like Greg, I don't remember when I did.
Do we need to amend this, Joe, or is it okay?
No, that's
Yeah,
just,
that's just
a
like.
ministerial act.
All in favor?
Yep.
Opposed? Carries.
To transfer funds, buildings and grounds.
Moved by Tom, second by John, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Authorizing agreements between the highway department, solid waste, recreation, forestry and parks, and buildings and grounds with its hospital occupational medicine.
Moved by Andrea, second by Randy, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Appointing member to mental health subcommittee.
Moved by Andrea, second by Jerry, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Appointing member to alcoholism and substance abuse subcommittee.
Moved by Tom, second by Greg, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
To extend Mass Mutual contract as plan administrator for the deferred compensation plan.
Moved by Randy, second by John, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
To appropriate funds for attorney.
Moved by Dick, second by Jerry, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Authorizing a mutual aid agreement with U.S. Army Garrison Fort Drum for fire and emergency services.
Moved by Jerry, second by Tom, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
To appropriate funds, transportation department.
Moved by Andrea, second by John, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
To transfer funds, highway department.
Moved by Jerry, second by Greg, discussion.
Just got one
Jerry.
question. These DO numbers and stuff like that, where it's coming from, is that coming out of their, somehow, somewhere's out of their budget?
It's coming out of county road and going into machinery.
Okay.
DO
So
is county road and.
it's neutral,
DM
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
right, it's all highway, it's just county road to machinery.
Okay, thank you.
Patty, can you, the committee
on last week or 2 weeks ago, I did not do a good job explaining the function of the county road fund. Could you explain that briefly?
Machinery and county road have separate funds, basically. And the way that machinery is funded is through county road. So basically, county road rents machinery. So that's how they get their funding. Well, it just happens to be that machinery has not been able to keep up with the rental, and their expenses have been more than what their revenues have been with fuel and everything. So county road is now funding them with a transfer from their actual fund balance. So they're basically loaning them the machinery fund money.
Well, what was happening before, we were charging when we do chips, this, that, our people and this and that, and essentially paying ourselves back for something we already own. So the question is I asked Ryan, are we better off just putting it in there and quit transferring this stuff? Make it simple.
Putting it in there from where, Jerry? From
Budgeted, they're paying themselves already out of their general, or their appropriations, so just automatically put it in there and quit paying for this and that.
Well, and I would, see, I don't know all the intricacies of the state, but the state has machinery and county road. When I do my state reporting,
that you charge against it, so you do less work because you're charging machinery and stuff against it. In the chips, you can do it.
right,
It's great.
right.
So, in other words, by doing this all the time, when we've already bought the piece of equipment, are we better off funding this separately and then going ahead and doing a little bit more road and stuff? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I guess that's more a question for
I'll ask
Ryan
it
and
to
those
committee
guys,
meeting,
because
yeah.
I really don't, when I'm saying that we really do need a machinery fund and a county road fund, we do need that. I'm assuming only because there is that, those funds exist in the state system. Because if we didn't have them,
Well, yeah, if we didn't charge against them, they wouldn't exist, but we do charge against them to pay ourselves, so, yeah, I agree with you. That's all.
I'm assuming it's
good.
some sort of accounting system that they want it that way. You know, that the state wants
Yeah.
it that way, and that's the way that we receive chip
I think
funding.
Thank you.
the big picture here is that the total levy that we've charged the taxpayers for highway has not changed in like 5 years. It's $2.8 million. Every year they come to me with budget, $2.8 million. Well, we know that the cost of machinery, the cost of gas goes up, it eats away the fund balance of the machinery fund, and it gets down to nothing. So next year budget time, we might wanna think about moving up that levy a little bit so that it's more balanced.
Thank you.
To get that explanation at committee, I think you better have Charlie come up.
Yeah,
Have Charlie come up and she's the one that does that.
Yeah.
Does the budget there.
You guys wanna have a quiz or ready to go?
ready to go. I don't think I can pass that quiz. I've been here 14 years and we still haven't figured it out 100%.
All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Amending compensation plan with reference to the hospital.
Moved by Dick, second by John, discussion.
Now, I thought there was only 4 nurses on that committee. Now there's 5 registered nurses.
I do know you had a Board of Managers meeting the day after our last board meeting. So those requests were incorporated into this as well.
I see. So,
The latest,
so now where's this 5th nurse position gonna be? You have that?
Yeah, so, you're talking about the 3rd position in the
Correct.
resolution, correct?
Yep.
That's linked to the LPN card that's being abolished right below. So we
Okay.
have an LPN who's retiring from our maternity service.
That's maturity.
and we want to replace that with a registered nurse. Okay.
So, well, okay. And the other 4 are going to the nursing home, correct?
Yes,
One for each floor?
that's how it'll work out. They'll be covering all 4 floors, and this, we're working a Sunday through Saturday schedule. And it's 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. shift, so that they cross over the a.m. shift and the evening shift.
I take it the clinical LPN and the physician assistant, is that for quick push?
Nope, that's for the extended hours walk-in clinic. So both the board of managers and the medical staff have asked, let's see if we can get the clinic to 6 days a week. It currently runs 5 days a week. And so we've been recruiting for a PA to be able to move that. We have secured a PA. In fact, we've secured several, and we have right now 3 PAs working, or will be working the 6-day coverage model. And if you approve that, then we'll be able to post the positions and then get to 6 days.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing grant agreement and subrecipient agreement with IBA to administer the microenterprise revolving loan grant.
Moved by Tom, second by Greg. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Authorizing agreement with the Louisville Volunteer Fire Department.
Moved by Jerry, second by Randy. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Acknowledging the county's commitment for up to $40,000 of in-kind services under the New York State Ag and Markets Agriculture and Farmland Protection Financial Grant.
Moved by John, second by Greg. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Opening of certain portions of county roads for ATV special events.
Moved by John, second by Andrea. Discussion.
There's a lot of reading here, but this is basically the same agreement and the same procedures that we've had in the past, right?
This is the same agreement.
Yes, same
and-
resolution, the same agreement has gone out. We've requested the insurance policies and certificates, and this allows the board to rescind this to be at the April meeting if we don't have that all in place by then.
Okay, very good, thank you.
I do wanna point out that Scott is here from the Snowbells, if you have any questions.
That was the only one I had.
All in favor?
Yep.
Opposed? Carries.
Authorizing contract amendments between the sheriff and Fort Drum for confinement of military pre-trial and post-trial soldiers.
Moved by Tom, second by Jerry. Discussion.
If I could, there's no dollar values here. Is this gonna be at the same rate?
It's at the same rate, and what's happening is that it seems like every other month they send us another modification agreement because they change the number of beds that they might want us to have available, or some other minor change to the agreement. So if you'll notice in this resolution, it basically authorizes the chairman to execute any of those future amendments that don't really affect the bottom line.
Okay. Now, I know when we have someone up there and they require medical services or a prescription, we end up paying for that.
They're paying for
They'll
that.
pay for
Yes,
that for
they
these
have their
people
own
that
medical,
they've got.
yes, yeah.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed? Carries.
To appropriate funds, Sheriff's Department.
Moved by John, second by Jerry. Discussion. All in
Is this
favor?
insurance money?
No,
No, okay.
it's federal,
Other people's money.
right,
Okay.
it's when they have arrests.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed? Carried.
To appropriate funds E911.
Moved by Andrea, second by Tom. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing an agreement with Aviat Networks for remote maintenance and support services on the microwave radios and antenna systems.
Moved by Gary, second by Greg. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing an agreement with E.F. Johnson for remote maintenance of E911 radio.
Moved by Tom, second by Jerry. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution to set a public hearing to obtain public input with reference to community development block grant.
Moved by John, second by Randy. Discussion? All in
Mr.
favor?
Chairman, Cheryl was here in case any of the board had any questions about that.
You're off the hook.
This is for a special funding round that they had leftover money, so, we're looking to, submit an application perhaps for homeownership assistance and also, perhaps local home replacement.
Is this for home
And couple
ownership? Cheryl?
applications.
Home ownership, you said?
Yeah, homeownership, yeah, homeownership, and, they had some recaptured money, so they came out with a $10 million funding round, and typically we would, the regular application would be due in usually, July or August, but we don't know if they're gonna change, what they're gonna allow to be funded, and there's some talk that maybe they won't allow homeownership later on or mobile home replacement. So it seems, since they had a special funding round, that we would want to take advantage of that. So that's why we're looking at submitting an application that's due on the end of April. So we would need a public hearing in order to submit that application.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing an agreement with New York State Housing Trust Fund Corporation for CDG.
Moved by Jerry, second by Dick. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing modification agreement to MOU between DSS and New York State Office of Children and Family Services.
Moved by John, second by Jerry. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. It's hard to, accept this is such a good deal.
To transfer funds, social services.
Moved by somebody. Dick? Andrea, second by Andrea. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Agreement with Brasco International for purchase of 2 bus stop shelters for the transportation system.
Moved by Tom, second by John. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. One step closer.
To appropriate funds, transportation bus operations.
Moved by Randy, second by Greg. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
With reference to adjustment on state land.
Moved by Jerry, second by Tom. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Approving correction of tax bill.
Moved by John, second by Tom. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Directing hospital to reimburse penalties imposed on Lewis County self-insurance plan.
Moved by Dick, second by Tom. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Transfer funds, workforce investment opportunities.
Moved by Jerry, second by John. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We're gonna need a motion to go into executive session, so do you wanna, do the
You wanna read the
proclamation?
proclamation first? Okay. Proclamation Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. Colorectal cancer is the third most commonly diagnosed cancer and the second most common cause of cancer deaths for both men and women in the U.S. The vast majority of colorectal cancer deaths could be prevented through proper screening and early detection. Every 5 seconds, there should be someone being screened for colorectal cancer, yet they are not. The survival rate of individuals who have colorectal cancer is 91% when detected in early stages, versus only a 10% survival rate when colorectal cancer is diagnosed after it is spread to other organs. Uninsured Americans are more likely to be diagnosed with late-stage colorectal cancer compared to those with private insurance. At least 6 out of every 10 deaths could be prevented if every adult 50 or older got tested regularly. Colorectal cancer is preventable, treatable, and in most cases beatable. Colorectal cancer is the second highest cause of death for northern New Yorkers and is very prevalent in our Tri-County area. Therefore, on behalf of the board, I, Lord Stolhoff, declare March 2019 as Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month to promote education and awareness on the importance of early detection and screening, and hereby recognize and applaud the Lewis County Cancer Services Program for providing educational information and awareness about the importance of prevention and early detection through regular screening and for facilitating access to care for uninsured Lewis County residents. All citizens are urged to be screened regularly for colorectal cancer and to participate and support awareness efforts.
Do we have any other business? Motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel and a contract issue. Tom, second by Greg. All in favor?